Welcome back, parents. If you have ever walked into your child's room or your toy room and thought, a match would solve this problem. I could just light that baby on fire and this whole mess would be over with. You are not alone. I have had that same thought myself. A matter of fact, in my story about feeling like a team of one years ago, when I was doing everything for everyone, I always mention how I pull into my garage at night, I open the door to my mudroom, and I'm literally pushing past backpacks and shoes and coats just to get into the door of my house. And I talk about how much anxiety and frustration that creates for me right before I greet my husband and children. And so if you can relate to any part of that, you are in for a treat today, because I have on the show a mom and professional organizer, and she is going to help us with some strategies for organizing our kids, helping us declutter our homes so that we can really help our kids be successful in getting off to a good start at school this season. So welcome to the show, Angela Nguyen.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Angela, how did you get into professional organizing and working with families around organization and decluttering? And tell us just a little bit about your family in that story.
Sure. So I'm a mom. We have two children, a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old and a new puppy. And my organizing pretty much started about 8-9 years ago, but honestly, it started earlier than that. It started like almost 15-20 years ago when I was living in New York, and I would walk around with a compass as I'm like trying to feng shui my apartment, and my roommates are laughing at me. But I understood at an early age that our environment really affects our mindset. And I didn't know what I was going to do with that. But about 8 years ago, we had moved back from Austria. We lived overseas for 5 years. We moved to Philadelphia. And we had this beautiful big home. It was my husband, my daughter, who was 3 at the time, and myself. And I didn't know where to put away things. I was feeling overwhelmed, and I felt like I didn't have much control of my life at that point because we moved to a place I had never lived. We were back in the States. I was trying to get pregnant, and organizing gave me a sense of control, which I liked. And so then I picked up the book, The Magic Power of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, and I read it, and I was like, I can do this. So I started to do this around the house, and I started to notice how it really improved my mood and in my everything. It just made such a big difference. So I decided to continue exploring this, and I took courses and more courses and more courses. And then I ended up deciding to make this a job. And so I started to do it for friends. And then I found a realtor that I was going to start working with. And my husband comes home and says, we're moving to Bangkok. And I was pregnant. So with an 8-week-old in tow, we moved to Bangkok. And again, I felt completely out of control of a lot of things in my life, even though I was very happy and excited to be there. And so we moved into an apartment, and I started to organize and trying to bring some order into this crazy life that we live. And then, COVID happened, and that was something that gave me a sense of security, as I could just go and declutter and organize my home. And once COVID kind of subsided a little bit and we could go back out into the community, I started to do this work with expats because they are continuously moving in and out of Bangkok. And I knew that we were coming back to the Virginia area at a certain time point, and that when I got back here, I needed to have a business to continue with. And this is something that I love, and I feel fortunate to be able to do what I love. And so that's what I do. I came back here, and I declutter, I organize, and I love it.
Wow. So I hear a couple of things. One, that organizing and decluttering brings you a sense of peace. It helps you have a sense of control over things when everything else is kind of out of control.
Exactly.
I can relate to that. I am a person that at the end of the day, I go around and tidy up my main floor for sure before I go to bed, because that's the first thing I see when I come downstairs in the morning. And it just really matters to me, that the first thing I, come in contact with is beautiful. It's simple. It's not a mess. And so I can totally understand and relate to the concept that your environment really does affect how you function and how you think about things. So I'm just so excited to have you on the show, because I feel like you get it on so many levels. I mean, you're a mom yourself, so you understand kids and the chaos and the clutter and the toy room and their idea of tidy versus our idea of tidy.
Exactly.
And I've got to say, I think that the three main areas of my house that drive me most nuts are my kids' room, our mudroom, like I talked about at the beginning, where you just walk in the door. And again, the first thing you see is all this clutter and disorganization. And it just matters. It just totally matters. So the mudroom, and then, oh my goodness, the pantry, like the snack disaster zone, if it's not organized and like simple, right?
Exactly. I think every parent feels these three zones are areas that really need a lot of attention.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, jump right in. What can we do to help our kids kind of understand, number one, the importance of, getting rid of some things. I'm just going to say it like that. I was trying to make it sound really nice. And it's like, no, we just have too much stuff, you know?
Kids, we all do. And we all, because we're in a society where you can buy, and things are so cheap. And so sometimes because things are so cheap, you don't put this value on them because, oh, they're replaceable. So kids, particularly in their rooms, they've just got toys everywhere. And they don't really know where toys go back because we as parents don't always know where to put the toys back at. And so they're just kind of always a jumbled mess. And when the kids go in there, they get overwhelmed. They don't even know what to play with. Well, I know if you're like me, I'm always like, you've got so many toys. How can you be bored?
Yeah.
But they really, it's like that Montessori style where they put the toys like at eye level and there's just a smaller amount. That's what kids need. That's how they thrive. They need less toys to be more successful, and they will actually play with them more. There's studies out there that shows that, kids need between 4 and 10 toys. And, most of us, how many toys do our kids have? Lots more.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to underscore that for a second. 4 to 10 toys is all a child needs.
I will have to send you the article. There's been studies done on this. They really don't need more than that.
I believe it. And this just speaks to me personally. When I go out to a restaurant, the restaurants I typically choose, honestly, are the ones that have like 10 choices, and they're really good choices. They're all very good items. But when I get to a restaurant that has pages and pages, and they have like 120 items, and they're all numbered, and there's no pictures, I'm like, I don't like, this isn't even fun. I need to get out of here. I feel a sense of anxiety. There's way too many choices. Yes. It doesn't seem like these people know, what's so special about this place because everything is on the list. And so I could relate that to a child walking into a room just full of, disorder and lots of choices. It's just like, never mind. I think I'll go behind the couch with my one little stuffed animal, right?
I think it's an amazing like a similarity for an adult to realize with a child. I think that I'm gonna have to steal that restaurant example, but it's true. Like this is a little bit different than the decluttering, but I feel like there's a value that you place on something that you spend money on versus something that's a little bit cheaper. And if you would just get a little bit nicer things, but a lot less of them, the child would sense that there's a value placed on this item, and they would start to treat it with more respect because you're probably going to put it in a spot that is a little bit more special, and they're going to recognize that. So this is a little bit different than the decluttering. It's a personal thing where I just really think less is more, and the quality it matters.
Yes.
And can sense that.
They can, because, it just is the classic example of like going through the drive-thru at McDonald's and they want a Happy Meal and they get the little plastic toy, and usually it's broken by the time you get back into the garage, but like they get it. Like this is just a very temporary thing. It's cheap, it's chintzy,
Yeah.
But how many times do they just kind of hold on to it just because it's another thing? And that's what we do. We haven't developed this habit of, purging things that aren't of value. And so all of a sudden, one day you walk in your kid's room and you're like, there's 45, McDonald's toys under your bed. And I just want to pack them up, put them in a little bag and drive through the drive-through and like hand them to the person at the window and be like, here you go. You know?
I love it. I love it. But you're right. It's like things that don't have value end up collecting in their rooms. And you can start teaching kids at a really young age. Like when my son was 3, I would have him in there and we would take one of those little plastic bin of toys that he would have. I would dump everything out and I would ask him and I would have him touch it. One of the most important things is, maybe at 3, it's a little bit hard, but you have to show each individual thing and kind of say, do you still like this? Do you still play with this? Do you think that maybe another child would enjoy this more than you do? And we could give it to someone who doesn't have something. And kids, it really resonates with most kids, the idea of helping somebody out. I don't know if we always give kids enough credit, but they really do want to, oh, that kid doesn't have something. Oh, okay, let's give them this. And they get a sense of pride by doing that. And so we're getting this gift of not only decluttering their room, but this like pride and fulfillment that they can fill themselves up with knowing that they're helping someone else. So there's so many levels to decluttering and organizing than just having a tidy home.
Yes.
Yeah. And like I said, any kids of any age can do this. And this, you go in and you have them actually touch the items and look at them and think about them and never start with like a junk drawer, like start with larger items. Like you're getting ready for school right now. So going through the kid's closet is a huge thing. I actually did that this morning for my son. And, I think as a parent, if the kids are younger, we can kind of do the clothes and stuff, but it's easy. Anything that has a hole, you get rid of it. Anything that doesn't fit, you toss it. But then, you can, if there's some things that you see your kids never wear, ask them, do you like this? And if they don't like it, don't keep it. Like, how we feel when we have something that we don't like to wear, it just feels ucky and I have a bad day all day because I don't like my outfit. Kids are the same way. So just listen to them.
And don't try to convince them that they really ought to like this because you love it so much. I can get into that habit with my daughter, right? I'm like, are you kidding? It's great. Let's just keep it here a couple more months. Like maybe you'll see what I'm seeing out of it. It's like, oh my gosh, you are not allowing her to be her own person, Jordan. She is not into the little sweater that has eyelets on it and just let it go, right? Put it in a bag. And like you said, give it to someone who would appreciate it and love it. And I just want to also highlight just the idea that as you are going, as you said, as you're going through these items one by one and allowing them to look at it with their eyes and touch it with their hands, that you are, helping them to connect experientially with this item and then really get grounded in their decision. Is this something that is meaningful to me still today? If so, great, we can keep it and do something with it. If not, I have the option to offer this to someone else who could really use it. And so I love the idea of kind of packaging things up and, asking your friends, do you have any interest in this? And no pressure to say yes, but if you do, we'd love to pass it along to a family that could really use it. And so that seems to be also part of your business too at Bring It Home Style. Is that right? That you help families pass their things on?
So that's a huge part of what I do. And when I speak with a client, I always tell them the things in your house that are causing you stress, your clutter is actually going to bring joy to someone else. And and they like to hear that because they're like, oh, okay. So part of what I do is I take a car full of their clutter and I make sure that it goes somewhere where people need it. That the free site on Facebook is like my best friend. I think I'm like the most popular person on it in my neighborhood because I'm always posting these items. And whether it's an older a quilt, it's still got a lot of use left to it, or some toys or dishes or whatever. I mean, I get TVs and all kinds of very good things sometimes. It goes to someone and like it brings such value. It continues to live its life. Whereas in your home, it was just causing you stress. And people like to think that their things still have value. I think it makes it a little easier, just like children. It makes it easier for adults to get rid of things too. So it's something I strongly believe in, passing things along.
Yes, that's such a good idea. And I'm just imagining like how much time that takes for you, but obviously it's something you're passionate about. Otherwise, you just put it in a big black garbage sack and dump it at the Goodwill or the Ark, right? And be done with it and move on. But it sounds like your heart is definitely in this.
It's part of my favorite thing is when I come home and my neighbors all also look outside like, oh my goodness, she's got her bags again, her boxes. But it's one of my favorite things, just to see how these things can continue to be reused. Or books. Like, I don't know where you guys are at, but we have tons of those like the box libraries all over the neighborhoods. I can't, like, my daughter will like bicycle over with a bag of books and we put them in there to donate. It gives me such joy to be able to do that.
Yes, to pass on someone else's things to bless someone else. I love that. That's a great value to help instill in our kids, that we don't have to be a throwaway society. We don't have to just gather things up, use them for a hot second, and then ditch them, trash them, throw them at the Goodwill. But we could be intentional about passing them along to someone and allowing someone to like look at the things before they make a decision, and are discerning about whether they want to bring that in their home as well. So.
Exactly. That's the big thing. They have to, the person taking it gets the decision. Like, it's not like just dropping it off and like, here, sort through it. They get to say, I want this. And they kind of all fight for it, on the Facebook free site, where they're like, I want it for this reason. I want it for that reason. Then you have to like pick a name out and all that.
Yes. Yes. That's an awesome thing that you're doing for sure. So once kids kind of go through that process of giving things away, or deciding that this is actually trash and we need to, put it in the dumpster. What are kind of the next steps for their rooms in terms of setting them up for success long term, instead of like the Band-Aid approach, which I feel like I'm doing most of the time?
And the big thing, and this is like, it's no big secret, but it's amazing that we all don't do this more, is like, you just put like things by like things. I know it sounds so simple, but put all of their cars in one area, all their books in one area, because then it allows them to kind of like to know where things go. Everything needs a home, and whether it's a bin or a basket, the kids need to know what goes in each area. So then when they can play and have a big mess, and then you can say, okay, 10 minutes, you got to clean it all up. They actually know where things go. So you're setting them up for success, because otherwise you tell them to clean the room up and it's like, I don't know where everything goes. And then you get mad and they get frustrated, and it's not a win-win. So that it's very simple, but just making sure everything goes back in its like designated area.
Yes. I love that tip. And it reminds me of when my kids were little. So my kids are 17, 11, and 9. But when they were in that toddler phase, I remember, I would take a picture of the grouping of their toys, like magic tracks. And then I'd literally upload it to my phone, go to Walgreens, print out the photo, bring it home, and tape it onto the little bin so that they could visibly see, your magic tracks go right here. That very bin, it's funny, is sitting on my porch on a table right now because I'm giving it away on one of those Facebook sites. And I told the person, I said, listen, it's got a picture of it on the front and the bin with a lid. Like, you are set. Like, whoever gets this is going to know what goes in here. But to your point, if they don't know what goes where, and their first experience of us is coming into their room and going, this is a disaster, you need to clean this up. It's just like, I imagine their little confused selves going, and how do you expect me to do that?
Yeah, exactly. It's bigger too, because you're setting them up for success, and like later in life, you're giving them ownership of an area in the home, and that way they can take pride in that area, and that is so important for their self-esteem. I think down the line, this just does wonders for teaching them how to treat their things, and I just think it's super important.
Yes, it is. And you make a great point that this is something that we're conditioning them for long beyond, them leaving the nest, right? It's setting them up. You said it yourself, like by having their own room, you're giving them a place in the house that they can be responsible for and practice this for 18 years, before they leave. I was reading something online before our recording here, and it was about kind of turning the dial too far. And the reason I was reading about that is because that's my tendency. I love things to be in their place. It brings me great peace. I love how it looks, but I can make that into a vice where I am just cracking down on people for one little thing being out of place. And so I know it's a bad thing. It has negative consequences to my children and to me to, be that particular about things. And the article was saying, being particular about where things go and liking a beautiful space is not the problem. Like, that's a gift. It's a beautiful thing. The way you go about it is what matters, because you can still have a home where things are in their place. And it does look very appealing, when you walk in the room with children, and your children can still be like well adjusted and not feeling on edge because of the way you go about it, right? The way you talk to them about that, and the intentionality you put behind kind of modeling for them the peace it brings when things are in their place and have order and have a feel to them. Like you were talking about the feng shui, right? Like there's a feel to the room. And so I thought, wow, that's, if I can tweak, the upset or the frustration in how I verbalize that to my children, and instead, see this as I'm offering them an opportunity to make their own space as adults beautiful like this by modeling this for them, then that's all this is. This is seed planting, right? This is modeling order and beauty, but they ultimately are going to choose how they keep their environment in the future. This is just something I'm trying to train them in a loving way right now.
I'm sure you're doing a great job with that, but that is a huge thing to realize, because if you do it the other way where you're hounding on them and like, you have to do it, it becomes a negative thing. And I mean, all kids end up rebelling, and you end up doing the opposite. And then they're going to move out of the house. And like, I don't want my house to be like, having their house tidy is going to bring back a memory that's not good. So all you can do is plant the seed now, and it might take time, but I see it in my 12-year-old. She's, she just does these certain like things of organizing or decluttering because she's been mimicking me for all these years now.
Yes.
So, plant the seed, and it will grow.
Yes. Okay. So that's a great idea. In their rooms, help them declutter, decide what they're going to give away, and then organize things in groupings, right? Make sure that they know where things go and model that for them, and then allow them to do that on their own. I'm sure praising them too when they put things in the right spot, and just helping them understand how they feel when they walk into their room and they know that they've done this themselves is a really awesome way to help kids in their room.
Exactly. And if you want to make a little game out of it, even my 12-year-old, she might like this still. You turn on some music and have a race. If you have two kids, have them have a race to who can clean the room up first.
I love it.
And make it into something that's fun, and that can help. And if you already have the space for all these things, cleaning up for the kids, it's easier because they do know where things go, and then it's just dropping everything into the bins.
Yes. And when you say cleaning up for the kids is easier, you don't mean that you're cleaning up for the kids. You mean cleaning up for the child is easier. Yeah. I would clarify that, because man, we can just do it ourselves because it's easier and quicker, right?
Exactly. But no, the kids, you're right. The kids cleaning up their own mess is what you should be aiming for.
Exactly. You got it. Well, what about the mudroom? What about the, yes.
Okay. So with school coming up for most people, or a lot of people, I think this is a huge area to seriously spend some time on. And this isn't something that I think that you really need to do with the kids. I think as a mom or dad, this is something that we should tackle, because if you go, and I'm sure there's the little cubbies or anything, you really need to pull everything out, because I'm sure all through the summer, little things have been put away, and just put things away. I mean, it's so simple, but if you're not using them, if they don't belong in that area, like, I don't know, like, can't think of a good example, but maybe the sunscreen, as it starts to, get cooler out, make sure you put the sunscreen away, because it's probably stashed in some place by the door. It's all about decluttering first, taking everything that really doesn't belong or benefit you in the entryway and putting it in its home elsewhere, tossing it or donating it, and then setting up areas again. It's all about zones, getting a basket for each child, getting hooks so that the kids know that this is for their backpack, getting an area to put the shoes. We take our shoes off when we come into the home. And so, does it go into a basket? Where does it go? And, starting day one with the kids going back to school, being like, okay, this is where this goes. This is where this goes. Even for your older kids, if you haven't been doing this, start this on day one of school, and it will become a habit, and it will save so much time and stress throughout the mornings, or when they come home, like kids, they're not looking to like make a mess in the entryway, but if they don't know where things go and they're tired and hungry, things just fall on the ground. And I'm sure my purse ends up on like random places sometimes because I'm tired. And it's the same thing. If I have a little hook where I try to remember to hang it. And it's just, you're trying to give your kids set them up for success is like my biggest thing. Like just giving them the tools to know where to put things and to have a more peaceful home is just why I do this, actually.
Yes. So having things organized, making sure your kids know where their things go, and then like communicating that to them. And you may have to circle back, right? Like after a long break, a week off around Thanksgiving or something, it may require a conversation to say, okay, guys, now we're back in the swing of things here. So you remember our shoes go in the bin, coats and backpacks. And then another thing I like to have in my mudroom is a trash can that's easily accessible.
Yes, that is, I should have mentioned that. That is 100% something I recommend because everyone's like pockets and purses and stuff. You need to throw that stuff away. Otherwise it just builds up.
Yes, the pile of paperwork when our kids used to be in school and not homeschooled, I remember their backpacks were, I'm like, how many weeks has this been in your backpack, crumpled up in here? Let's just empty out the backpack every night into the trash right here, right by your backpack. Boom, it's done, right? Or the junk from the car that you've collected, as you're out and about running errands. It's like you clean out the car, put it in the trash, boom, you're done. It does not come all the way into the house.
Exactly. And another good thing is if you have the space, it's some sort of cute little basket. The kids can throw their paperwork in or something that they need to get signed or their artwork. It's just as they're emptying out their backpacks. And, you might not have time to go through it at that moment. I know when we get home from school, my 6-year-old always wants me to look at his things. And of course I'm doing 300 other things, but if he knows that he can put it in that basket and later when I have a moment, I will get it and we can look at it together, but his backpack is cleaned out.
What a great idea. Yes. So you're not saying no, you're saying not right now, but if you put it in this organized spot, then we have a way better chance of getting to it later because it's not lost.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
so good.
that builds up the kids' sense of self-worth because there's again other studies out there about how when a child shows you a piece of paper, stop and look at it. Even if you're doing 700 other things, it makes such a difference to them to get that, to feel valued by you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great, great idea. And again, if we don't have a spot for this stuff, it just goes wherever the child goes or it ends up on the floor. And then that feels really bad to everyone. It feels bad to me because it looks like trash on the floor. It feels bad to you because you aren't getting your need met by being able to show your work to me and, understand that it was valued by me. So love it. And like you said, this isn't like rocket science. It's just actually simplifying, making things easier on ourselves by just putting in a couple strategies and a couple bins and some labels and like keeping it simple versus like doing more and, trying to expand what we've already got set up, right?
Exactly. I always say what I do, everybody, you can do what I do a lot of times. But it's like, I'm like a gym, like a coach at a gym. You just need that person motivating you along and just talking through it. Really, you can figure it out yourself, but it's taking the time, setting yourself up for success by giving yourself the time to work through these areas.
Yes. Good stuff. What about the pantry? Okay. The pantry. I swear during COVID, that door was just like revolving, right? It was just nonstop. The kids eating all the time, going in the pantry. I'm like,
So the pantry's 2 areas. There's like the whole pantry where we're doing a lot of the cooking, but then the areas that right now I'm really focusing on with people is the area for kids that affects them most, obviously, is the breakfast, setting up a breakfast area in your pantry, whether it's a little bin or baskets or however, some designated area on the shelf. So that depending on the ages of your kids, maybe you can give them the ability to go in and grab something off of the shelf or, otherwise my kids sit there sometimes. I'm like, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? And no. Okay. You go pick something out. And it also gives us as busy moms kind of like a visual. So we see, oh, okay. So all this is kind of gone at the grocery store. Okay. I know I need to like stock back up. And then the other area is snack area, whether the kids are packing a lunch for school or for when they come home. they're hungry, and it's easy for them to maybe grab something sugary or I don't know, something, and or bother us, and we're trying to cook dinner or clean up. But if you give them an area, you have free reign to take any of this when you get home from school and stock it with healthy options. Again, you're setting them up for success. And it's just, again, a win-win. Um, so I would say for right now with schools, have your breakfast area, have your snack area. And then if you want to do the whole pantry, that's a whole nother thing. But that is something that could be important too, with like preparing dinners during a busy school year. That requires, making sure that there's nothing expired in your pantry, going through everything, being realistic if you're going to use something. And yeah, and I like pretty containers, but it doesn't have to be like Pinterest pretty. It's all about having like things by like things. So you aren't overbuying when you go to the grocery store and wasting money.
Yes. And I want to highlight the fact that it does not have to be Pinterest pretty, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are not going for perfectionism. We aren't, out there saying you've got to go to the Container Store and spend thousands of dollars on all these special organization tools. You can use what you already have and repurpose some of those bins and create your own labels and do all of that, right? Or you can, decide to do kind of a pantry makeover. A couple of days ago, I can't remember where it was. Oh, probably Costco, and got some of the clear bins that have little cutout hole in the front, so you could easily just grab it and pull out the bin from the shelf. And I did what you said. Like, I set up breakfast options with like instant oatmeals and protein bars and things like that. And then afternoon snacks, Lara bars. They're so pretty. The labels, that like they're bright green and purple, and like so it looks nice in a clear bin. And that just works for me. It works for my kids to be able to easily see in my pantry that like, okay, I don't have to go digging through like a dark bin, and pull it out and look inside it. But if it's clear, I can already see what my options are, quickly make a decision, move on and go with it. So I remember having a small home with hardly any cupboards, and I would be like, pantry? Oh, those ladies have pantries. That's really nice. Maybe someday I'll have a pantry. And it was like, I'm using these short, like ridiculous cupboards that, are only like 6 inches deep. But even within that, I found myself, setting up little bins and zones for snacks and things that were my kids' height, that I did not care if they opened the door themselves and accessed that food, because it made my life easier and it helped them become more independent, right?
Exactly. Again, it's all about teaching our kids to be independent.
Yes. Yes. I love it. What great tips you have given us already. I mean, and I want to just also highlight what you said about, having a coach or a professional organizer help you, because it's okay to just raise your hand and say, you know what, all these ideas sound really good, ladies, and I feel overwhelmed and I don't even know where to start. And I could use a consultation. I could use an hour or two of professional advice and you just telling me what to do. And I follow your directions, right? Like, start here. Here's what I want you to do first. And then we're going to move on to this. And then we just take it slow, but get the plan in place, right? That's what you do.
Exactly. And we worked together, and we make it fun. I mean, a lot of times my clients become friends because you're in their home. It's very personal. One thing that I do is I don't post before and afters, because I don't like the idea of, and it's a private place. Your home is such a sacred place. And so I don't want that posted all over my social media. And people do that, and it's great. And if somebody says they want that, I'd be happy to post it all over my social media. But we work together and we get your home organized, and then I give you systems of keeping it in place. And sometimes I come back in, a couple times a year just to give it a little tweak, because even my house needs it, my closets and everything. Life just happens. And
yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So your business is located where? Remind us.
Sure. So I am in Northern Virginia, right outside of the DC area, but I also do virtual appointments, which are just a little bit different. Obviously, if you're in my area, I come to you, but virtual appointments, we do it like this, by Zoom, and it's surprisingly very effective. It gives you have a lot of control over it, but you have someone checking in and accountability, and that's usually what people really need.
Totally. Accountability and a few basic tools and systems. And I can just imagine the peace and the order that comes back to families and parents in such an instant, because it really does matter. Having your place organized, being able to find things quickly, having your whole family on board where it's not just mom or it's not just dad that's got a high sense of order or need for that. Like putting these systems in place that you're talking about really engages the whole family. And that's what we're all about at Families of Character, is really uniting the entire family to work on one goal over the course of 30 to 60 days in order to make these things stick as healthy habits. And so one of the very first things we encourage parents to do is to start with organization. We say that of all of the character strengths, organization is the cornerstone. If you don't have order in your home and in your family life, it's very difficult to feel grateful for things and to appreciate things. It's very difficult to have a generous heart because you're unaware of what you already have. And it, keeps you from believing that you have anything to give away. It's very difficult to practice forgiveness when your mind is so cluttered that you're constantly being hurt, but you don't have the space in your mind to think about, processing what just happened and offering forgiveness to someone in your family. So this just totally gels with our mission here at Families of Character, is to, get some organization and order around your house, engage everyone, and then really, make it really help, get everyone moving in the right direction so that this is something that people do together. So, Angela, you have been just such a gift.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Come on and talk about it. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay. So where can people find you if they want to, do maybe like a discovery call with you or shoot you an email and tell you their situation? How do they get a hold of you?
Sure. So my company's Bring It Home Style, and you can shoot me an email, bringithomestyle.com, or I have a website, again, bringithomestyle.com, or I'm sorry, it's bringithomestyle at gmail.com is my email, and then Bring It Home Style is my website. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. If you want to get a little bit more of my personality, you can definitely check out Instagram. I keep that up to date with little tidbits and tricks. And I would love to hear from you, even just to say hi.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the show, Angela. Guys, if you really want to kind of help take your kids to the next level in building these healthy habits in their morning and afternoon routine, you can always access our shop too, because we have tons of tools for you and for your family. We have what we call a 5-star family day pack. And what it is, 5-star days family pack. And so what it is it's a checklist for before and after school activities and healthy habits, some of those non-negotiables like brushing your teeth, making your bed, tidying your room, those sorts of things. And so we've got that available in our shop. So check it out. Don't beat your brains out coming up with your own checklist. Kids like to know what's expected. So go to familiesofcharacter.com, check it out. We've got you covered. The other thing we also have that is crazy, and we don't talk about a lot, but we have a box that comes to your house, and it's just a single one-time purchase, and it's called Adventure into Character, and the destination is organization. And so this one-time box comes to your house. It's got something for mom, for dad, for kids, something for the whole family to get you on board of, picking up after yourself, making sure that everything has its own home, getting places on time, and prioritizing relationships. So it's really this awesome bundle that has something to offer for everyone in the family around organization. So that's on our shop as well. And Angela, you mentioned just a community and like following on socials to see your style. We also have a parent community called the Thrive Community by Families of Character on Facebook. So if you're not a part of that, be sure that you join our group and check out what we're talking about there. We highlight a lot of the most important parts of these podcasts there, and also just really, use it as a platform for talking about what we're going through in parenting and how to get everyone on board in our family to grow in character. So again, Angela, thank you so much. We will make sure that everybody is able to check out your site, Bring It Home Style, email you at bringithomestyle@gmail.com. And you never know, you might be getting a call from me because I'm hooked.
I would love it. I would absolutely love it.
Thank you so much, Angela. And parents, we will catch you on another episode of the Families of Character show. See ya.